Today is a little bit different message. It's on the Christian single, and I got to say it's a tough one to put together. It's not the norm. You know, it's really not. And Pastor Kevin's given me this great system, man, and it really works for teaching and preaching. It really keeps it to the point. It helps me stay focused. It's who's saying it, who are they saying it to, and what's the context of the conversation? What's going on in their culture, their life, and their time, you know, 'cause that really brings out some good points and really lets you know the meat of the story if you know what's happening in somebody's life. But this message makes it a little bit tough to use this system because it carries some more responsibility than the typical, because I'm not delving into somebody else's history, seeing how they dealt with God, picking apart what they did right, what they did wrong. Now this one here is a little different because I'm kind of the one bringing the message today, and the message is specifically to us, and it deals with the right now in the world we live in, the post-Christian world. You know, it's wild you can say post-Christian now and it don't prod nobody or don't move them or nothing because we're so used to it. It's just the way it is. By definition, it's the loss of the primacy of Christian worldview in political affairs, especially in the Western world where Christianity had previously flourished, in favor of alternative worldviews such as secularism or nationalism. That's kind of fancy word for saying God's been pushed out of the building. I mean, God's not central in our direction anymore. And we see with Bible history that's not a good place to be in. There's consequences when God's pushed out or silent. That means the door's left open for something else to come in and fill that void. So it's a dicey time to be living in. And again, it's easy for even me studying and learning in a post-Christian world to, again, I pray that my bias stay out of it, my cultural biases, then we can stay focused on God's Word, because it's a tough place to be a Christian right now and to convey these kind of views. What's this got to do with the Christian single? Well, like every other Bible story, setting is very important. You know, in this setting, we're going to learn and hopefully answer some questions about the Christian single. One, is it okay to be a Christian single? Is this a biblical practice? Is it all right? Secondly, does the modern day church really meet the needs of the Christian single? Does it really talk to them? Third, what's the purpose of the Christian single in his body here? How does it work? How does it play out? How does the mechanics of it work? But we got to understand it's only part of any or every biblical situation, because there is us in a world going along in our temporal existence. We only got so much time to come to Christ or not to it. But God's plan is eternal, and it's been going on for a long time. We've been learning in Bible study. It's really hit me in this Bible study in Genesis that God's plan, how sovereign and how true and how constant it is. And we can't penetrate this on our own. We can only be grafted in and pulled in to somehow be part of it. But I mean, we see this when God gave the consequences of sin to Adam and Eve. And then we go on to Noah, where he gives a covenant to Noah. Then this covenant's transferred in Noah's line to Abraham, to Isaac. Now we're into Jacob. God's plan is always going on. We can't change that. We're not able to change that, you know. Man hasn't or won't ever change or manipulate God's sovereign rule. It's important to know this as we go along. So sometimes we can get lost and ate up in our culture and miss the big point that He is still in control and He has a plan for mankind, an eternal plan. But as Christians through Christ, we've been set free from bondage of sin. We get to take part in this. He's allowed us to take part in this wonderful plan, and that's humbling, really humbling to me that He allows us to. Even He doesn't have to, but He does, to see His glory and feel His presence and be part of this, you know, and bring other people in. But in this plan, God's grace and the Holy Spirit, we've been given spiritual gifts. 1 Corinthians 12:4 explains, I think nicely, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God works in all of them, in all men. Everybody's in this. If we've called on the name of Christ and we've been grafted in His family, we have a spiritual gift. You know, Paul makes it clear in excuse me. Spiritual gifts are God's supernaturally, He gives us a supernatural ability for the believer for the purpose of serving. It's a supernatural. We got talents, and talents can be used in the church too, but the spiritual gift is a supernatural ability given directly from God to a purpose, and it often doesn't maybe go along with their personality or their walk of life. When we see that, when it's really enacted truly, we truly let go to God to use this gift, we see it's undeniably God. There's no doubt about it that God's working in these gifts. And one such gift isn't just an action, but it's an actual complete lifestyle. And in this lifestyle, it incorporates a lot of different gifts. It can incorporate a lot of different gifts within the gift of being single. The Christian single, let's read in first, I'm going to kind of summarize Corinthians 7 here. And in this chapter, we see how Paul is ministering to Christians in Corinth. And this society, much like our own, is a very sexually oriented society with similarities of our own. Again, it's influenced by Greek culture they have this prostitute system, but yet they have an idea that anything of the flesh is bad. So you got a lot of stuff going on. We could spend a week talking about the culture of Corinth here, but it's pretty horrible, really, when you look at it, if you want to summarize it somehow. But the people came to Paul asking, hey, would it be good just not to touch a woman at all? Just abstain totally. And why would they ask this? Well, they're probably thinking, if they're a church and they're trying to do right, if sexual immorality is a problem in their culture and has infiltrated their church, and it's a danger, it's a definitely danger to have this sexual activity like this, would it be better just to avoid it altogether? Should we just not touch a woman? Just stay out of it altogether. Paul makes it clear. In the union of marriage, God's plan, the husband and wife are to deprive one another affectionately. In this system, the man belongs to the woman belongs to the man, and affectionately, in the day and day, our interaction, we shouldn't deny one each other. We should take time to talk to our spouses, see what's going on, and be part of their life. But also sexually, we're not to deprive one another either. Paul makes it clear, unless it's a time of fasting or prayer, or there's some biblical reason that we need to step out of these for a minute, for a little bit. But that's the only reasons. And he says this so Satan doesn't tempt them because of lack of self-control. But Paul also makes this point here that the Christian single is a gift. Paul says, I wish that all men were as I am myself. Paul's not the kind of guy in the ministry that needs to be married. Being stoned and left for dead and being in jail is not your typical marriage plan, So he's saying, I wish everybody be like me, because be single. But each one, he makes this clear. This gift, this calling isn't for everybody. But each one has his own gift from God, in this manner and another in that. But I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. Paul makes it clear, that the Christian single is a gift from God, but warns of the danger. If you don't have this special calling, it's our basic instinct. It's how we're wired. It's how we reproduce. It's hard to control this, unless it's a special calling. Paul's warning, it's not going to be easy. Some may say, is this a conflict with Scripture to be single? Is this a conflict? Because Genesis 2:18 says, is it not good that man should be alone? I will make him a helper comparable to him. And in verse 24, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And I asked them earlier today, and this would be a good Sunday night question, is this really a conflict? It's a good discussion question. But we look at this, Paul and God are really on the same page here. There's no doubt that marriage is the norm. This is the way we reproduce. Remember, Noah's sons were told to go reproduce the earth. This has been the call of mankind. This is the norm. And this institution is a God-made institution, and it keeps man in this institution. It keeps us from fleshly sin, because those desires are going to be there. They're where we've inherited them. And I quote here from a message. I apologize, I didn't get the name I'm taking from, but it says, marriage is God's loving gift to humanity in a chief context in which our desire for intimacy is met. And God makes it clear. God, back when we were studying Cain and Abel, Cain had killed his brother, and he was mad, and he's angry, and he's kind of running from God, and he has a really unrepentant attitude. And God reminds him before he takes off, sin is crouching at the door. When we get in these situations, when we're left alone with our flesh, sin can happen. So marriage is God's design for the desire for intimacy to be met. But if man does accept the calling, again, we could go on with, is this a conflict of Scripture? Won't he be alone? No, here's why he won't be alone. The married person can't be as devoted to the Lord as a single person can. It's just not possible. Look at Paul, for instance, Say Paul's wife is at home doing the dishes or whatever Middle Eastern women do. I don't know what they did back then, And her friend comes over, and says, where's Paul at? Oh man, he's in jail again, and you can hear almost her friend, these influences come in. Girl, you got to get yourself another man. This ain't working. You got these influences. The devil works this way, man. Paul ain't there to defend himself. He's not there to defend God. He's in jail. So this is one of those instances where Paul is better to be single. These are one of these interests. There's just sometimes it's better, Again, stoned, left for dead, in and out of jail. You don't want, missions is another area, man. There's places, we got CM&A missionaries that we can't even talk to because they're in so deep and they're in dangerous situations. You can't drag your wife into that situation, man. You're running alone there, man. Just you and God. It's dangerous, So there is these issues. So they're not, so who is with them? Are they still not alone? Well, marriage carries obligations that take away from the Lord. And their biblical obligations goes, when we take a man and wife come together, they become one. The man's obligation, and spiritual obligation, is to lead his family to the Lord, to raise children in the Lord. So I don't mean it as a negative thing. But the Christian single isn't alone in engaging in this spiritual gift because they got the Holy Spirit working in them and through them, with them, in every aspect of their life. It's unhindered by anything of the world, It's working through them. And the Holy Spirit, if they're really called to this gift and the gift is really manifesting itself, replaces this physical union with the spiritual one. And man, that's where we all want to end up anyway, but not many are called to this degree. This is a special calling. So again, we have to really, is it okay to be a Christian single? Yeah, it is, but it's a very high standard of calling. There's a degree of devotion and closeness to God that only the Christian single can have, and no one can master without the power of God. You're not going to conquer the flesh. The people of Corinth come to Paul and say, hey, should we just not? No, Paul makes it clear, that ain't going to work, guys. It's not going to work, not without the power of God. So we see the special calling of the Christian single. It is. It's important. It's good, but it's a very high calling. But my second question dealt with, does the church neglect the Christian single? Not intentionally, but in ways they do. Now, somebody early class made a good point. Well, Christian singles aren't looking for God anyway. Well, that's not up to us to decide. That's not. If somebody walks in the door and they come without a wife, it's not to us to say anything. If that person, a lot of times if they came here, it's because God drew them here. And they need love, they need help, they need God's compassion, they need to some way see God today. If God drew you here today for some reason, you need to see God. Bottom line, you need to see God. So that person may not fit the typical category of the Christian single, but that doesn't mean they don't need to hear God's word. Maybe they're on the verge, maybe something, we don't know how they've been hammered in their life. Maybe and they came here. Isn't that amazing? All the stuff that they could do, all the different choices they could take, but they chose to be listening to God and come here today. So understand that but the Christian church as a whole doesn't really take care of. They don't really have anything really specific for singles. And I looked up on the internet, and they mean well. I'm not knocking a church. Again, I don't want bias. I don't want to seem like I'm getting on a soapbox here. But they don't. It's really the church is more designed for the married couple. And even in the single, when you go to single things on the internet, it kind of funnels you into something else, And I think ideally, what the church would like. I could be wrong. Feel free to disagree, but honestly, I think they would like other singles to get together and then be young married couples themselves. I kind of sense that's a direction. Maybe you disagree with that, but I kind of sense that's where they're wanting to point it to. But in today's church, we can say the Christian single can easily be overlooked. And we may miss an opportunity to come along someone who's wholly devoted to doing God's work. And who better to reach that Christian, or not nominal Christian, or just a seeking person, who better to meet that person at the door is the Christian single, because they might have been there. Because not all Christian singles have had the calling of God to be this Christian single. Not all of them have had this gift, but they still may be a Christian single by things that aren't their choice. Their spouse left them, or their spouse died. They could be a widow. So they didn't start down the road to be a Christian single, but here they are. Now, who better to reach that person? They're kind of in the middle. It's kind of a beautiful situation, because this person is a mediator between the person who doesn't necessarily know the Lord and the people who do. So, man, we're missing this opportunity. If we would focus on these opportunities, man, I think that doors could really be open for a really strong ministry, not just this church, but the church overall. Overall, the church and our culture seem to spend a lot of time trying to reach the world, but in effect, they look and sound a lot like it. It's not really that much different. I remember going to a rock and roll concert with the kids years ago, and how loud the music was. It was kind of like they were saying, we're cool too. But I finally, when I was a kid, I never really went to concerts. I ran track and cross country. I did 2-day workouts for the most of the time. I worked. I had a weird home life, so I just stayed working and running most of the time. That was kind of my high, and I did that. And I never got to hear the bands that I always wanted to hear. So the last couple of years, I thought, I think I'll do that. They just came to come in. So I seen, don't judge me. I seen Alice Cooper, Deep Purple, Leonard Skinner, and then even the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne last year. So, but none of these bands were as loud as the Christian bands. And if anything, these bands ought to be extra loud because all the fans I'm with are old. They're carrying oxygen tanks, and you can't read their tattoos anymore. I mean, they're old. If anybody needs some sound, it's us. But they weren't as loud as the Christian kid rock and roll bands, We tend to overcompensate. I do it. Pastors got on me, hey man, you got off track here, we overcompensate. We're trying to get a point across in a class or a sermon, and we overcompensate. And so does the church does that. And I'm afraid they do that in the world sometime. But Jesus is the good model. Jesus is always the perfect teacher. He's the model of getting it right. Because in John 5, this is the Steve translation, so you just look up John 5 if you want to get a deeper look at it. But Jesus is coming along, and there's this pool. In this pool, supposedly the angels stirred the water, and if you're the first one in, you get healed. That sounds good. Well, what Jesus is really coming on here, and I think it's fair to say, is a cross-section of the world. It's not feeding 5,000 world, but it's a nice little cross-section of the world here, because every walk of life's got somebody, whatever you do, whoever you are, you need healing. Somebody's hurting somehow. And in this walk, since they heard angels stir the water, I'm sure there was a certain crowd there that had some kind of spiritual aspect of their life, or they were seeking something. They knew something about the spiritual aspect. So Jesus comes on, basically up against the world. Well, what's he do? Does he look like the world? Does he try and act like it? Does he fit in? No, he comes up on a guy that's paralyzed. And this guy's bummed out. He says, man, I'm paralyzed. I want to get in the water, but every time I try and get in there, somebody beats me to it and I can't get in. Well, Jesus doesn't help him into the water. He doesn't say, look, people, we got somebody here next. No. He says, pick up your rug and walk. And instantly, God heals him right there on the spot. No help from the world, not trying to be intrusive to the world, not being part of it, but he says, pick up your rug and walk, and he's healed, And of course, Jesus brings heat on. Here's what I don't understand in the Bible. One of these things, the religious leaders, they get on Jesus for healing on the Sabbath, yet people say there's an angel stirring the water, and nobody seems to bother them doing that on the Sabbath. I don't get that part of it, but that just shows you, how weird culture is. Their culture is just as weird as ours, because they got on him for that. But anyway, but Jesus does another thing in parting. He says, sin no more, lest something worse happen to you. So we see Jesus meeting the world, doesn't become part of it. He shows God in the world, and he brings the man to a choice. 3 simple little steps without ever looking like the world. It's beautiful. But the modern day church, how would they do that? Maybe some, not this church, but some churches would probably do this. They would come up on this pool and see the people there, and Jesus might say, check this out, dudes. Why didn't I think of this? A healing pool. Why wouldn't we? That's where the world is. That's what they're doing. That's what's cool today. The feeding 5,000 with the fish and the bread. Oh man, that's old. This is where it's at today. Fellas, grab your shovels. We're fixing to dig a pool. Let's do this. Only he would be a Middle Eastern accent, not city of West Side Indy accent. But you get my point. And Pastor said something a couple weeks ago that really stuck with me. It's about authenticity, being authentic, man. And I think the Christian single ministry are some of the most authentic ministries in the church because they're not tied to a program. They're kind of winging it on themselves. Now they're powered by the Holy Spirit, and they want to do the will of God, and they got to want to do the will of God because they wouldn't even be involved in a ministry that they really don't have a set place in. They don't really have a place, but yet they get engaged. And it's a really Spirit-led, truth of Jesus kind of walk. Don't get me wrong, we need organization. I'm saying we should be haphazard in this. It's organization that helped me, Pastor Kevin and Chris and the men's group and people I talk to. Believe me, when I'm talking to you, sometimes I'm picking your brain for sermon ideas. I'm trying to get what the feeling of God-led people are. You're my family. You're my body. This is what I lean on, when I teach or preach. So organization, believe me, I get it. But if we're going to be a Spirit-led church and take more Christ-like approach, the Christian single really has a gift that's a great asset to a Christ-type moment of going to church. Again, meet the world, show them God, and bring that choice to them. I mean, if we just did those 3 things, if we could do that, concentrate on that, we'd be so much farther along. See, Jesus was honest in who and where he was, you know. We need to emulate that fact. Yeah, and the person, I'm sorry. No, I did that. Forgive me. Another aspect of the person that's gone through divorce or lost their loved one, you know, we have the truth of Jesus, but we also have the excellent testimony of somebody who's been dumped on. I mean, you know, somebody who's had a hard road, and, you know, who better, you know, that's a nice tool to reach the world too, that particular Christian single. And we have had some great examples of Christian singles right here, you know, and I like to notice some of them because they work so hard, but yet they kind of go unnoticed. And one of my favorites is Cindy Ware. I mean, she was an administrative person. I'd say probably her gift. She didn't choose. She was a widow. She didn't choose to be a Christian single, but she was. And it was interesting because she's an administrator, and she had an odd job. Part of her job was like to be a mediator, kind of. I don't know if it was all of her job, but part of it was to be a mediation between union and labor. And I talked to a guy that worked at Rolls-Royce, and she was really a respected person. I said, really? Because I work for a union place, and management and unions, they don't typically have much respect. Even if they do like you, they won't. Oh, man. Too animated. Jimmy Swear could swing a microphone cord and everything. I can't even keep a microphone on my... But she was respected. Are we coming in? She was really respected with labor, and I appreciate that. She was the real deal. I mean, it's neat to see. Not that I doubted her at church, but it was really impressive to hear that a worker, somebody who worked under her as a management person, really had that kind of respect for her. I thought, man, she's the real deal. And she could bring that softness, that gentleness into situations at church that might not always be easy. She did that. She was really that Christian single. Led a cancer group while she had cancer herself. Slowly dying, but still taking pictures for us here at church. And what an amazing example, you know. I mean, that's a Christian single at the kind of the top of the food chain, so to speak. And another one too, man, it was easy to overlook, and he's always involved, is Bob Smith. And I mean this as a compliment, Bob. Is Bob out there? I mean this as a compliment. Some people are better suited for a single life because Bob, whatever he does, is 100% totally in. I mean, whether it's teaching baseball, and one of my favorite things he does is cook. And he's always bringing these fancy dishes, man, and they're good. And Bob's famous at other churches too, the Baptist Church in New Winchester, because I used to help out there, you know. And Bob's almost like a Bible story because, you know, one time they came up to me and, you know, said, "Tell me, Brother Steve, is all the food in the land of Canaan like Bob's?" And I said, yeah, and it gives you a really biblical opening too. I said, yeah, the physical food is good at Canaan, but come taste the spiritual food that lasts forever. You know, he kind of sets you up for a bit. I stole that from Jesus. So I mean, but forgive me about that. But he does, man. And when you see Bob at McDonald's, man, he's always reading, you know, something with a Christian author. He's got it right. You see Bob Smith's truck at a church cutting a parking lot grass. You see him bringing these dishes. Bob's Christian singleness does something that is really, really needed in the church, the whole church today, is Bob's a Christian on the outside of these walls. It's cool to be a Christian in here, man. It's easy, though. But Bob's a Christian out there. When you see Bob out there, man, he's devoted in whatever he does, and he's a Christian. He just says Christian with his life. And that's powerful. And I mentioned this earlier. Somebody said, why don't you just ask him yourself? But I kind of thought this is a God thing. We all got those questions. You know, you ever want to ask God a question when you're meeting? You know, that's, well, why this? You know, what about this or that? And I always kind of wondered, as good a cook Bob is, why he eats at McDonald's every day. You know, I never knew that. God will probably tell me, you're right, you don't need to know. So that's okay. But that's an example, you know. We see Cindy and Bob both were excellent examples in the world. They manifested, they showed Christ in a real tangible way that people can get and understand. Paula Murphy, my favorite, my psychiatrist, man, because she had kids too. And when I was turning my kids loose on the world, she had her own kids, you know, and I'd be kind of whiny. I was working 2 jobs, basically tired, and she'd be driving to work, and I probably was kind of whiny and worried about my kids. And Paula, man, she's like, oh, big man got in trouble with one little girl, huh? She's she's raising $2 by herself. Her husband left her. She's taking care of a blind mom and a dying aunt and all their animals at the same time. So my problems seemed pretty weak compared to what she was taking on. But Paula, I never had a big sister. I was the oldest kid, so I always thought about my life as like, I like watching space stuff and watch the space shuttle coming back into the atmosphere, and it's fires coming off of it, and those tires are flaking off, and it's coming in burning. That's kind of what I was in my family, and it's kind of a dysfunctional home. I was the oldest, and I was kind of that those tiles on the space shuttle kind of. That's kind of the way my life looked. But she was kind of like my big sister, and she even taught me, and would be going down 70 West, and she'd get out her phone. I knew school was about to go into session because the first thing she'd do is talk to her daughter Kelly and say, "Speakerphone's on, Kelly," and that was telling Kelly, "Watch your mouth, Steve's listening." That was the keep it clean. And but she was also letting me know class was starting. And Paula was beautiful at manipulating her daughter's whole weekend and getting her. I mean, her daughter may have this wild weekend, but Paula could somehow come in and soothe it and change her direction without her even knowing it, with this perfect blend of love and firmness. And I thought, man, I'm not worthy, But she was a cool parent. So these are just some of my Christian single friends that's really affected my life. And I just wanted to. There's more. There's more of them out there, but this is what I feel like the church might just be missing a little bit by connecting with these folks and being on board with them. So we've answered basically my first two questions here. Is it all right to be a Christian single? Yeah, it is. It's a very high calling. Does the church neglect them? Yeah, I don't think it's not intentional. I know it's not intentional, but somehow they get swept under the rug. They get pushed to the side, and in the grand scheme of things, they're overlooked, but they're such a great asset. But I want to look at the purpose. What's the purpose? There's a purpose of the Christian single? And this is I took this from gospelcoalition.org. I got this. I'm going to give them credit for it because I kind of like this description. It says, marriage seems to uniquely highlight the love and devotion of Christ to his church, seen in a love between husband and wife. This is kind of shows in this example here. Kevin's going to do that next week. It's going to be awesome. Be here. But singleness to uniquely highlight the church's love and devotion to Christ. It's the other way. It's the church's love back to him because they're devoted. They don't have any obstructions. It's a direct route, and we're allowed. It's an opportunity in this singleness to show a pure love to him. This is likely why Scripture is replete with imagery of singleness and virginity as a metaphor for the love and devotion of God's people. So we see this is a very deep and spiritual walk here. It's really a true walk. And not many are called. Some, again, from circumstances out of their control. Some, again, for people just being lost and seeking an answer, But all these come together. All these come together under this one. And for a wonderful ministry and a wonderful testimony to a world, this post-Christian world, that doesn't seem to be looking for God for the answers. But my own opinion of it, that's a nice, well-written opinion. I believe it's biblical. It's to the point and good. But in my own personal walk, I got to say, in my life experiences and my take on it, how Christ has worked in my life through Christian singles is they've allowed me to see God. Allowed to see God, not in the manifestation as like an angel or Lord of Christ's ministry, but they've allowed me to see God in a way that's real, and separate, a real sanctified life with ministries that we don't get to. And if I've seen it in my life in the church body, think how the rest of the church gets the opportunity to see God, and then ultimately the world gets to see God in a real and tangible way. And that's my prayer in this, and my challenge is that we would look at these people and come alongside of them and see how we can help out. But maybe we could have the heart. That may not be our gift, but we can still strive for the heart of that Christian single, that we could live a devoted life. That's an example for us. It's not just to see them do it and let them do it. We should be seeing this example and trying to emulate it ourselves and try and live a closer walk with God. And it's going to make your marriage stronger too. And on the other side, if we do this, if we have the passion of the Christian single, those that have most of us are married, will be better. I was thinking of a story back when I used to thinking baseball, and there's two former baseball players I was in here today. There was this one certain kid, and he was the best. I swear he's probably the best hitter in the league. When he met the ball square, and if he used form like Bob Smith would teach you, he would drive out a home run every time. But if we had a fence, if there was a fence there, he's always swinging for the fence. And he'd shoot it straight up in there, and it'd take a while to come down. I won't mention his name, little stocky redhead kid. He was a strong hitter, though. And he was tough. But I mean, we need to, as the church, not swing for the fence all the time and just make a nice square hit. Simple things of Jesus. Meet the world, tell them the truth, and give them the opportunity for a choice.
As a church, what's our response? We still have a place to play in it, whether we're married or not. And so here was some things, was how might we come alongside believers who are single in this season of life? Drop the assumption they need a spouse. Well, that's a hard one for some matchmakers out there. Offer a hand where help is needed. Be intentional about friendship. Talk, listen, be there. Help singles into the church family, utilizing, thank you, Steve, for that, how you explain there's talents and then there's spiritual gifts. And that was well put in the message. Utilizing their gifts and their purpose within the church body. So there are things we can all be doing, and we should be doing. A very hard topic and well covered.